the final weeks of Marco Rubio's campaign, as reporters constantly demanded to know whether the senator was dropping out, his press team faced the unenviable task of rebutting the rumors.
In Florida specifically, there's only one candidate in Florida that can beat Donald Trump, and that's Marco Rubio.
Before, Marco Rubio was leading that extensively, and now Trump has picked up the pace after this past weekend. So how do you reason that?
Well, the truth is that the polls have been all over the place.
Joining us now are Alex Conant, Rubio's former communications director, and his wife, Caitlin Conant, also a member of the communications staff. So, Caitlin, wasn't it hard as the losses piled up and the polls started sinking in Florida to maintain an optimistic tone?
Look, it was very, very fun working with the press. We have a good relationship with the media, and we're obviously in the media relations business. So, you know, it's always a give and take, but it was very hard.
But every question was, why is he doing so badly? And is he going to drop out? And aren't you concerned about this poll or that poll?
Yeah, and it was definitely difficult with some of our surrogates, too. Look, part of my job was to ensure that we had our top-tier surrogates at debates to talk about substance and how Marco did the debates. And Cory Gardner, Senator Cory Gardner, was a trooper. And he was there in Michigan after one of the debates, and he just kept getting asked, you know, what's it going to be if Trump's the nominee? Will you support Trump? And there was a story written, look, they asked him 7 times. So it was hard to break above the fray and to stay optimistic going into the end. But we worked for Marco. I came over for Marco because we believe in him. So we were hopeful
not doubting that.
Till the tail end.
Alex, you had to insist or deflect whether Rubio would continue if he lost Florida. You had to know that if he lost Florida, he'd be toast.
Well, I didn't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Marco made that decision in the hours leading up to the polls closing in Florida. Okay. I mean, we honestly believed that there was a shot that we would win Florida. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. It was a very strange year. And to be honest, Howie, I think that the negative drumbeat in the media was really damaging to the campaign, especially after the Super Tuesday losses, and everyone heard about was how Marco was losing, and just the Trump force. I don't think you can underestimate the.
So do you think that negative drumbeat was unfair, overplayed? Because after all, it began with when your campaign was hitting a lot of rough patches, and there was bad news.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was unfair in retrospect was that Donald Trump got about 20 times as much media as the rest of the candidates combined. The day of the Florida primary, there was a report that there's been $2 billion worth of free media surrounding Donald Trump's campaign, which is more than any other campaign in history, and we're not even into the general election yet. So I think that the media has to look at that.
But almost until the end, a lot of your rivals certainly believed that Senator Rubio, who was on the cover of Time, the Republican savior, was a media darling and was getting a lot of positive press.
Yeah, but all the questions ended up being about Trump towards the end. And a prime example, we did a ton of national TV leading up to it, but it turned into almost an advertisement for Trump every time he went on. So by the end,
it
was frustrating. And by the end, we started doing a bunch of regional satellite tours. But even there, it was the local press, the regional press. It was all Trump, Trump, Trump. So Marco is obviously a very excellent communicator, and he did his best to try and rise above the fray.
Well, speaking of Trump, by the way, it was funny when you ran over to the CNN bureau to go on air and report that there was an internal debate about whether the senator should drop out. You had to defend Marco Rubio, your boss, when he went through that spate of insulting Donald Trump over small hands, spray tan, wetting his pants, until he admitted it was a mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think you mentioned I had to go over to CNN. I think CNN found their missing airplane with Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump was the equivalent of a missing airplane for CNN's ratings, and that's all they talked about. That's all that they've reported on. And so in order to break into some of that coverage, Marco started engaging Trump in ways that he later regretted.
Just briefly, you guys working around the clock, sometimes traveling together. A little bit of a strain on the marriage?
Oh, it was so much fun. We've done this before. We've worked for Tim Pawlenty together and Joni Ernst, and in different roles, but some people think it's crazy we do this together, but we think it would be crazy not to, because we pour everything into these jobs. We get very passionate. We both believed in Marco a lot.
There's the soundbite. Some people think it's crazy, but we're not crazy. Alex Conant, Caitlin Conant, thanks for stopping by this Sunday. Still to come, what happened when NBC briefly hired a former Obama operative, and Hulk Hogan's legal victory over Gawker in that sex tape case, why that style of journalism could become extinct.